Hi and welcome to the June episode of Spotlight on UNBC. My name is Rob Van Addercom. Coming up on the big show this month, we'll profile the UNBC Learning Skills Center and talk about the future of courses on the World Wide Web. Of course, the big event last month was Convocation. Later, we'll have highlights from the event when 240 students received their UNBC degrees. But next, we'll meet a few of those graduating students and talk about what that degree means when it comes to actually getting a job. All that and more is coming up on this episode of Spotlight on UNBC for June 1997. Many people go to university because they figure that a university degree is a ticket to getting a good job. It's true for many, and it's also true that university grads are twice as likely to have a good job as someone with just a high school diploma. But the piece of paper alone is not a guarantee of getting good employment. Often a student can enhance their chances for getting the job they want while they're still in school.
When students come to university, probably the most common question is, what can I do with a degree in this or that? That information has been very difficult for students to obtain. The specific information they're looking for, like who has been hiring, how much have they been paying, what qualifications did they want, where would I have to work? Students have had to research that information by themselves. We're now making it possible on the internet for students to find that information readily available to them here at UNBC.
That website includes the list of UNBC degrees and possible options for employment. It also has a unique feature allowing students to scan related job ads for the past 2 years. That allows them to identify the skills they may need to acquire in addition to just their university degree. A recent survey of BC University grads found that only about 3% were still looking for work 2 years after graduation, and about 1/3 of graduates had permanent work already lined up before they finished school. One of those is UNBC Commerce graduate Sandra Rose.
The Bank of Montreal came onto the university campus and they recruited students to apply. I was hired and I wanted to return home to my hometown of Williams Lake for the summer, and so they placed me in Williams Lake for the summer. Then I returned to finish my last semester at UNBC, and while I was going to school, they hired me part-time at the 15th and Central branch, and now upon completion of my degree, they have offered me a full-time position as a financial services manager.
For Sandra, getting a good job right after university was in large part a result of her obtaining her degree.
I would say that when employers look for prospective employees, definitely a degree is one of the top things that they look for. They also like to see that you're able to demonstrate your personal abilities, but I really do feel that a degree is essential now in today's market to get a good job.
Prince George career counselor Andrea Stewart would agree with that, but she takes it a step further. She says that students should also obtain experience, such as that offered by the UNBC Co-op program. Co-op students alternate academic terms with work terms, so they learn theory as well as skills.
We don't see a lot of co-op students in our office. The types that we will get are the ones that do not have the co-op experience, and I think that's why they're having more difficulties, because they have a general degree in arts or sciences and they don't have any specific training that they can then bring to the real world.
This year, the first UNBC co-op students received their degrees, and they appreciate the skills that co-op provided. Morgan Cranny has had a co-op term, in effect a paying job at the McGregor Model Forest, extended for the duration of the summer.
I had no idea what I wanted to do while I was going to school. I thought I'd be a waiter or something. That's the job I could get. Yeah. But no, co-op was good. I found out a couple things that I didn't want to do. And then I found that the job I've got now is actually really good. I found I really like it. And I might want to pursue my career in that area. I output maps based on certain criteria, which allows you to see if you manage the McGregor in this way, this is kind of what it'll look like in 100 years or 80 years. And you can sort of, it's to help us stop making mistakes.
Megan Darcy received the Governor General's Silver Medal at Convocation for being the top undergraduate student, and she was the class valedictorian. She too was a graduate of the co-op program.
As university graduates, we are now armed with the necessary tools and skills that will enable us to deal with the complex problems that will arise later on in life. A lot of people don't know the steps of thinking through problems, and I think you learn how to do that in university, where you don't necessarily get that training anywhere else. And also I think university helps prepare you, because I think it kind of helps you through those years when, from coming out of high school, going into your sort of mid-20s, and you know, I think that's a pretty important part of your life where you have to kind of settle down and figure out which direction you're going and that kind of stuff. And a lot of people do that at university, and I can see why, because it's kind of a small community in itself, but then it sort of is a stepping stone in a way.
It prepared me reasonably well. I mean, every time I go to a job, I learn a gazillion things. I mean, I'm amazed I could get the job without what I learned at work, but, you know, school prepared me. I mean, I can't imagine how I would have gone into this without the knowledge that I gained at school. It gives you a base to work on. That's the best part about school. It gives you the right foundation and the abilities to learn when you get to work.
One of the busier places on the Prince George campus is the UNBC Learning Skills Center, where students get help with things like essay writing and study skills. For many students, the process of getting a good mark on that essay or exam is very similar to the process used in a popular sport.
There's steps in rock climbing and there's steps in learning. And by coming to the Learning Skills Center, students can learn the steps in order to achieve their academic success at UNBC.
The analogy may sound a bit corny at first, but give it a chance. Here's Learning Skills Coordinator Jim Bell.
Doing well in university is a lot like rock climbing. If preparation is the key. If you leave all your studying right to the end, it's impossible to read all that material, it's impossible to cram it all in, and you're not going to do very well. The key is to start early and plan step by step how you're going to attack that course, when you're going to get this thing done, when you're going to move on to the next stage, and constantly reviewing. So when you come to that final push for the peak or for the final exam, then you've got the preparation behind you and it's doable.
The Learning Skills Center helps a lot of students reach their academic peak, both through personal tutoring in the center and group workshops.
So you may wonder what this is really all about in terms of what is expected of a student. Typically, a student is expected to know how to cite sources, right here, and that's usually done through paraphrasing, okay, always giving credit to the source that you're citing, or quoting, okay, directly using the idea or phrase or definition word for word.
The main thing is to not just jump in and write a paper off of information you know and throw in a bunch of quotes. What you have to do is look at the writing process, the different stages to go through, instead of, because a lot of people have problems, they think, okay, well, it's in my head. When I write it, everybody else is going to get the same idea, but that doesn't always happen. And these represent a paragraph.
Once we've determined what we're going to work on in a conference, there's a few resources that I can use. We have a folder full of different handouts that I can take them through. But usually, instead of using a resource, I just ask them questions, sort of leading questions like you would as a journalist. And it's usually just a small push in the direction of learning. I really like having students that come back in or come in on a regular basis where I can actually see the progress that they're making. And it's really interesting to see a paper in September from someone who's coming in for the first time and then compare that to what they're doing later on in the semester. It's kind of a satisfying feeling.
You get really positive results. Most students feel that they've gained something from the conference, that it's something that they're not just going to use for this one paper, for this one assignment, but it's something that they're going to have forever.
I've used it 3 different times this year, twice for English and once for math. I'd probably succeed, but I don't think I would do as well. And part of getting an education is to achieve the best you can. So I think I wouldn't be as complete getting my studies as if I didn't use them.
The main thing we try to do is individualize or customize what we do with the student. And we customize in content. One student might need help with organizing. The next student might have organization down pat, but not be very good at editing for commas and semicolons. So we individualize the content for what they want to work on and what they need to work on. Students make really good use of us. And I think you can sort of look at the impact two ways. One is for troubleshooting, you know. The person doesn't know how to write multiple choice tests. They go, okay, I got to get help with this. They run in, 45 minutes of help. They've learned how to tackle a multiple choice test. They dash off to the exam and they do good. They're happy. But I think the other way to look at our impact is in more depth. And that is, there's a percentage of students that come back and back and back that really build up a repertoire of study skills or really learn how to write through every step of the writing process. And they may come back and see us 10 times a semester. And we definitely change the way that they study and their success, and we change the way they write.
UNBC is a new university, and it's therefore able to take advantage of new technology. The past year, for example, has seen UNBC launch its first courses on the World Wide Web. With anything new, it had its growing pains, but the technology is improving, and many more courses are now being developed for electronic dissemination. Collectively, the 4 English courses had about 100 students, far more than what was expected. Originally conceived as a pilot project, the advent of the web courses ushered in a whole new era in course delivery, especially for a regional university like UNBC.
We had a really good student participation. Each student did, on an average, about 800 logins for the coursework. We had a lot of feedback from the students during the course so that we were able to change the software to fit the needs and special parameters of this institution.
One of the challenges of developing the courses was providing for discussion among students and the professor. That was achieved by the creation of an email discussion forum.
Some people seem to think that this was just going to be person and computer, but it's not. It's person, computer, and the computer mediates between 2 people and or more. Now, the general discussions were very lively, intense, and sometimes so intense that the instructors had to cool it down. But the students worked very hard at communicating, and I'm sure that they developed their writing skills as well as their computer skills while doing this, which is a good thing for an English course. People learned to express themselves clearly and grammatically, and even started to check their spelling.
I think it's a great tool. I mean, there's a lot of people afraid of it, but it's the wave of the future, so I think they better get used to it.
UNBC English student Ian Howitt was involved in the actual design and operation of the web courses.
I mean, sure, the one-on-one is missing, but at the same time, for students that are shyer in class, you know, there's tends to be in a classroom situation 5 or 6 that dominate this discussion. So in a class of 25, the other 18, 19 get left out. This way, they're anonymous. They're free to make their discussion, make their points clear, and no worries of any repercussions from other students smirking or, you know, because that's a dumb question or anything like that. There are no dumb questions on the internet, really.
About twice as many web courses are now in development at UNBC, including one from geography professor Gail Fondal.
Courses on circumpolar geography, and we think it would be really useful to have an audience and a participant group that was from the circumpolar north. And so it will serve not only UNBC students really well, but the course is designed to bring in students from Lapland, from other Fennoscandian states, from Greenland, from northern Canada, from Alaska, and have them all be part of a discussion group. We'll have virtual discussions. And it'll be an enriching experience for the UNBC students because they can talk to people who live in the north and provide them with a lot more material than just teaching the course in the classroom at UNBC.
So watch for UNBC web courses with an international flavor coming soon to a computer near you. A UNBC professor is heading up a major new program launched by the BC Heart and Stroke Foundation. The program will provide the most complete examination of smoking trends in the province and will be overseen by psychology professor Ken Perkichin.
This will be the most comprehensive survey of smoking rates and smoking habits in the entire world when it's done.
Ken Perkichin has a long research and volunteer history with Heart and Stroke Foundations. The huge study is already underway, and the results will shape future programs to reduce smoking.
Strategies to date have been based on the idea that as soon as you let people know that smoking is bad for them and you give them some education about it, then everything should fall into place and everybody will, of course, quit smoking. Well, the history of this whole issue, going back at least 30 years, is that that just doesn't work. Yet, we keep on trying the same techniques over and over. What this survey will do is allow us, as I say, to identify specific factors that people report are associated with their smoking habits. You know, are they smoking, for example, because they're afraid if they quit, they're going to put on weight? Are they smoking because they've tried repeatedly to quit but have failed? These bits of information allow a much more precise understanding of what's going on with the smoking habit and then allow us to develop new strategies to change the habit.
UNBC Resource, Recreation and Tourism professor Alan Ewart is off to Finland this month, where he will be involved in a unique project to identify wilderness development trends in Northern Europe.
Finland has been the first Northern European country to develop an official wilderness policy and legislative program. So it'll be interesting to see how they're conceptualizing and actually mandating or protecting their wilderness resource as opposed to how we protect ours.
An eco-village may soon be developed near UNBC's Prince George campus. Environmental Studies professor John Curry is involved in the project, which would see a unique housing development built adjacent to the university campus.
I have a lot of practical experience in planning, and what we're trying to do is kind of develop an institute or a research facility that can start testing some concepts in the community on new planning practices and techniques. And that relates to like how can we start bringing kind of nature back into our urban areas? How can we start making our urban areas more sustainable? So really that's what we're trying to do with this eco-village. What we want to do is design our communities to dramatically reduce the amount of energy that are consumed in them. And we can do that very easily. The concepts are there. They may have to be kind of retested based on new technology that we have. But we can heat probably, say 60 to 70% of our heat requirements for dwellings can be from solar radiation.
Construction of a new shopping area in Prince George supplied a UNBC professor with a rare archaeological find recently. Excavation on the site unearthed an elk skeleton about 22 feet below the surface. Carbon dating is being arranged, but the depth alone indicates the elk skeleton could be some 3,000 years old.
This may well be the most complete such find, certainly in the province. I don't know about elsewhere.
The skeleton is currently at UNBC and under the watchful eye of forensic anthropologist Richard Lazenby. The skeleton is noteworthy for the large number of bones that were found totally intact.
This is really fortuitous that they actually found these parts here. These are the left and right demi-mandibles with the intact premolar and molar tooth rows through here. The front teeth, the canines and incisors are missing, unfortunately, but that's not surprising because they tend to fall out. They only have one root holding the tooth in, but it's kind of neat that they have this because this is one way you can age the animal by looking at the wear in the teeth. And the only literature I found so far, and some of the pictures that I've got, suggest that this animal might be perhaps 6 to 7 years old.
For the story on how the skeleton was found, we go to the Parkwood Place construction site with site foreman Dave Queuing.
In this area, there's different layers of material. Some nice clean gravel veins. Below that, there's nothing but pure sand. And below that sand, like the sand layers vary from 10 to 15 feet in depth. Yeah. And below that, there's great big rocks, which would have been the river bottom. About 5 to 6 feet down in the sand belt is where we found the remains of the elk. Most of the carcass was there. It had obviously washed onto this sandbar with only birds and flies eating it off because no large carnivores were able to take the bones away. We found virtually the whole skeleton. Yeah. The hoe itself damaged quite a bit of the skeleton, but we found everything from rib bones to leg bones, jaw, antlers. More or less the whole skeleton was there.
What we're going to do is actually submit some of the bone to a lab down in the States and get a carbon-14 date from it. The bone's in really good shape and it shouldn't be any difficulty acquiring that information.
The recent UNBC convocation was doubly significant for one UNBC student. Michael Blackstock received a master's degree in First Nation Studies on that day, but earlier the Gitxsan artist unveiled a selection of his art, which is now on permanent display in the UNBC Conference Center.
It's a real marker in my life, it's a really great day, to sort of celebrate my sort of artistic side and also my scholarly side, I guess, on the same day. It's kind of, I'm always trying to balance the two, art and school or work and in life and family, and so there's always these different sides of me that I'm either emphasizing or trying to keep quiet for a while. So today, kind of doing both, so it's neat. Yeah, it's great to think that my son might come to this university someday and see the arch hanging there, and there's that kind of real sense of belongingness to the North, having something here, and that maybe one day my son will be seeing it. So that's a neat feeling too.
It took a while for all those 240 graduates to receive their degrees, but this year's convocation was a huge success nonetheless. Highlights now from the big day for UNBC's 4th graduating class. More than 1,000 people attended this year's convocation, and there were graduates from all 5 university faculties.
The graduates we honor today have been educated to succeed. The university, through its academic programs, has attempted to provide them with the knowledge, skills, and practical experience to be able to embark on fulfilling careers. But a university education is not just about earning a livelihood. I would hope that our graduates today will take from this university an unquenchable thirst for knowledge, a desire to continue to learn, and a disposition to make our society a better place in which to live.
Honorary degrees were awarded to former MLA Ray Williston and esteemed biologist Ian McTaggart-Cowan. Prince George lawyer and UNBC founder Murray Sadler was recognized as a friend of the university, and David Fish, outgoing dean of the Faculty of Health and Human Sciences, was named UNBC's first Professor Emeritus. The graduates then had their turn, and this year's group included the first grads in a total of 17 degree programs. As well, there was the first graduate from UNBC's Nisga'a Studies program, the first married couple, and the first graduates from a whole host of northern BC communities.
What are you going to remember most? What do you want to take with you from this place?
Probably the professors. I think we are so lucky to have the faculty that we have here. They really care about the students. They really care about what we do, what we're going to do after we're done and we're finished here, and the friends too. And just such a different group of people from all over Canada and all over the world that I've been friends with over the last 4 years.
One graduate had something a little more tangible to remember his graduation day.
So how does it feel to graduate?
Well, it feels good, and to see all my old friends here, my buddies, all my
classes, classmates. Excellent. I like UNBC.
So how does it feel to get this big thing?
Well, I deserve for it, eh? How much you put into it, how much you get out of it. Look at that.
How much is there?
990.
How much?
990.
990?
That's right.
With this year's grad class, membership in the Alumni Association quadrupled and now stands at more than 300 members. The night before convocation, a reception was held for all graduates when a tree was planted for each grad class, starting with the first group from 1994.
It's exciting to see that kind of growth. We've been waiting for it for a few years now, to see UNBC start to come in its own, to get that many graduates who actually are now coming through. And as Alumni Association, we see that many more people who can get involved with us in some of our community events that we put together.
This is my final convocation. At a time in my life when it was presumed my public days were done and all the ceremonials were ended, it is a highlight of my life that Northerners elected me to speak for them in their behalf at the formation of this great university. I have been so privileged to be your chancellor. I have seen you triumph. It is in your hands to keep on doing so. Keep your full covenant with Northerners. Fight always toward equality of access and respect at every level. Don't stand on ceremony. Never surrender to internal division. Don't let the energy of the past few years ever desert you. Keep it all alive. Never fear continuing to dare, to aim higher than expected, and when you hit your mark, dare again, and then dare again. And never, ever accept less than the very best that is within you. That is the promise to tomorrow. That is the promise of this university.
I don't think it's quite sunk in yet. It's, I guess it's just been so fast. It's kind of overwhelming. But I don't think it's totally sunk in yet. Maybe like tomorrow when I have this thing on my wall.
After all the hard work and cooperation from all the students, we all work together to achieve this goal, and you can see it by the 300 people that graduated today. Tremendous feeling. It's also good to see so many graduates out of this class. It means a lot for the school, so that it's going to become more and more a good institution, that it deserves the credit as well. Other than that, I'd just like to say thanks to the people out there in Prince George for making my last 3 years a real memorable experience.
Thanks for watching this episode of Spotlight on UNBC, which is our last episode for this summer. We'll of course be back in September with all the news from the start of the 1997-98 academic year. But for now, have a great summer and see you again in September.